Do you want to know how to discipline children with autism? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And I have parented children with autism. And in this video, we are talking about the best way to go about discipline. In this video, we're going to understand how children with autism respond to structure and calmness, and what self-government tools that you can use to help them feel safe, and how to conquer some of those troubling behaviors. So let's talk about how autistic people, especially children, respond to the structure of their environment and the feeling or tone of calmness in their environment. So oftentimes people who are autistic have very active brains. They pick up on lots of information. And in order to try to ground themselves, they hold very firmly to structure. They like a structure. They like predictability. They like to know exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it. They don't like those schedules to be disrupted or changed because it feels very unsettling. They actually have a hard time even knowing how to problem solve or process if things change too much. Now, that doesn't mean they can't learn how to adapt, because they absolutely have to. Life doesn't stay the same all the time. I mean, for some people, a lot of the days stay the same, but you just never know when something's going to happen that will throw things a little bit out of your normal processing, right? So they need to understand. We've got to prepare them for that. But we also, if we are smart, when we're disciplining or working with an autistic child, we will keep our parenting predictable. I'll tell you what, there is something that ruins the predictability in parenting, and that is emotion. Emotional outbursts destroy predictability and the structure of parenting. If parents start taking their child behaviors personally, if they start getting frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed, this actually destroys the structure and the predictability and can create this heightened anxiety in the autistic person, so that they have a hard time focusing in, they have a hard time self-assessing, anything except for their anxiety, they have a hard time fixing their problems. It just throws everything off course. So what about that calmness then? It is so important. We want to help them stay calm, which is why we want to help keep things predictable, but we also want to help the parents stay calm. So you need to stay calm. That is ideal, because you're going to be the one doing the disciplining and the corrective teaching and having these conversations with their child. They need to know that everything is following the structure, that everything's okay, that you're not worried about them. They should not be over processing during that time of correction. They should be able to stay laser focused on the process that you're going through, because they already know it. So if you've already subscribed to this channel, then you know that I love the principle of pre-teaching. That is one of the key principles of self-government, which means that you teach someone ahead of time what is expected of them, what the consequences are going to be, what the words are that you're going to use. You lay it all out ahead of time, and then you follow through. What this does is decreases anxiety, and because it increases predictability, it helps a person be more successful. It helps them make better choices for themselves without having to engage in any type of a power struggle to get there. Now, I don't believe in power struggles anyway. We'll talk more about that at the end of this video, but I will say, when we are correcting our children and teaching our children, if we have a pre-teaching mindset, if we always come back to, let's prepare them for future success, no matter what we're doing, whether it's a praise, whether it's a correction, or whether we're pre-teaching them before we even give them any type of instruction or are requiring for them to use any of their tools. So let's talk about tools. These are tools for parents, and I've got many others, but these are three of the main ones, especially this one, Parenting a House United. But I also have tools for children. So these tools are four of my children's books. There's actually a whole other book series called The Calm Crew that you might want to look at as well. But these ones are the ones where I would start. These books teach the 4 basic skills of self-government. You pre-teach these to your children. Each skill has a skill set attached to it. So for instance, this one here that you learn in London LaRae says, okay, teaches the skill following instructions. How do you follow instructions? You look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. So if your child gets distracted, you know to correct them for not doing the task immediately. If they roll their eyes or whine or complain, then you know that you need to correct them for not keeping a calm face, voice, and body, or not saying okay, or asking to disagree appropriately. But what skills do you use for yourself? Those are going to be skills that are taught in the parent resources. But your children should know the exact words that you're going to use for correction before you ever actually use it in the moment of correction. This is going to help them so much prepare to be successful and accept the consequences that are coming their way. Speaking of consequences, we want to be really predictable with the consequences too, so don't mix it up all the time. Some people, go back to that old movie, The Parent Trap, or to Gilbert and Sullivan, who said, let the punishment fit the crime. Okay, yes and no, because lots of times what we get into there is a lot of manipulation with the punishments or the negative consequences. It is important for your child to accept a negative consequence in order to learn cause and effect, which is vital for learning self-government, but it doesn't have to be something that hurts, or it doesn't have to be something that is creative every time. You can stick to the same things every time. There are 4 negative consequences that I use, and we hardly ever use any other negative consequence unless we have decided upon that in a family meeting. So let's get into a little bit of the steps of correcting a negative behavior. One of the things you don't want to do is emotionally explode at your child when you are correcting behaviors. So you don't want to emotionally dump on them. That's really important, because when you are autistic and you feel the emotions flying, suddenly you can't think. Suddenly you're in your wrong part of your brain. And this happens to everybody, but people who are autistic often have a fast track to that back brain. They can get really overwhelmed, frustrated because they were trying their best. They can have a meltdown. Suddenly they're targeting you, attacking you in aggressive ways, and everything is now falling apart. So making sure that they know exactly what consequences that they'll accept, exactly what words that you're going to use is important. What do you say? You start out by describing instead of emotionally reacting. You describe exactly what they did. You describe why that wasn't a good idea. You describe what they should have done. So a lot of descriptions to bring them back to a self-analysis, which autistic people can do, even though it can be painful sometimes for them, meaning they don't like it at first, but they can learn how to do it, okay? So then they can analyze what it was that I should have done differently, and then you can describe what negative consequence that they earned, which, like I said, keep it simple. I have other videos where I talk about those. And then you can practice things the right way. So you should do 3 role play practices to help them have an opportunity to practice things the right way. By the way, praise them for those practices. Then they go and they do their consequence. They come back and check back with you, because that's one of their skills for accepting a consequence. And then at that point, you are going to praise them again for doing all of the steps to accepting a consequence. When you praise them when they do good things, so the good equals good, and you correct them when they do the wrong choice, so bad equals bad, then they get the opportunity to learn cause and effect and feel more empowered to be able to make decisions on their own, because they see that cause and effect. So often parents of autistic children coddle those children. They don't do the corrections that they should do. I'm just going to caution you for that. Why were the foster children brought to my home that had autism? And how come I was supposed to help them conquer these problems and their parents couldn't do it? Could it be because they were coddled? I mean, I suppose there's other reasons there that a parent wouldn't do the corrections that they needed. Maybe they were abusive, which sometimes was the case. But oftentimes they just were not equipped with the skills. They didn't know how to correct the child, and so they didn't. And they would just give them a free pass because they were autistic. Don't make that same mistake. Autistic people are very smart people. very smart people. They need you to talk to them like a smart person. They need you to treat them like a regular person. They need you to give them the skills that are needed to be able to become socially acceptable to other people so that they can succeed. If you coddle them emotionally and don't do the corrections that are needed, they will not gain the social understanding or the self-government understanding that they need in order to be successful. The reason why people started asking me to be on television programs and movies and write books and articles and speak places all around the world is because people came to my home, people that they thought, this one's too hard to fix, and then I would help them develop a new way of seeing life, a new mindset, new skills and behaviors, and they would change, and they could step them down from treatment, and people were amazed by that. That's what this whole channel is about. Get the help you need. Start with the next video, which is called How to Discipline Children. I'll see you there.